Hello everyone, it's Jess Conto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film, and this is my second of 3 Prada collaborations for Wes Anderson. Made some short films acting as ads for Prada, except I don't know how this one was an ad.
My only thought that I had about this is I don't understand how it's like.
But joining me for this episode is my wife Jess. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
And this episode is brought to you by Prada Gandhi. No, it's not. But if Prada wants to sponsor this, we'd be more than happy to accept your sponsorship.
I don't understand what they're selling.
I don't know either. At least in Prada Gandhi.
I guess it's Go ahead.
It kept cutting to like the perfume. Like there were shots of the perfume,
like
and it's
subliminal
like
advertising.
And it's like Prada Gandhi, and then it would cut like a time jump. So like they used it to like instead of like doo-doo-doo, 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 and then it was just like here's our product, and then move on to the next part of the story. But this had no time jumps and had no advertising for Prada in it, or at least no overt. Maybe some of the stuff they had on and stuff. Actually, I'm not 100% sure what Prada does. So
they do a lot.
So it could have been there, and I'm sure it was.
Fashion, bags, perfume.
They probably made a bunch of the costumes, I would assume. But we'll get to that. But there's 3 segments on this episode of this show where we do coming attractions, and this is March 14th, already halfway through March. And then we'll have our feature film, which is Castello Cavalcanti. And then we have some recommendations for you.
Put your hands.
Now, starting off with our coming attractions, this is a weekend that has some interesting releases. I know, been seeing so much of Novocaine, which was one of the mystery movies at theaters this past Monday. And there's a new Soderbergh film. There's a new A24 film. There's even a new Looney Tunes movie, which, Jess, why is your most anticipated movie The Day the Earth Blew Up?
I feel like Looney Tunes is one of the franchises that just seems to be pretty consistent. I mean, I enjoyed the newer TV show that they had. Felt like old Looney Tunes, really. This movie also felt like old Looney Tunes. I really enjoyed it.
Spoiler alert, we watched it already.
Yeah, spoiler alert. I really enjoyed it. It had some moments, I definitely see where the early aughts, like Chowder and Flapjack and all that stuff came from in watching
Or that this was made by millennials because they started playing REM.
That caught me off guard. I enjoyed it, though. The soundtrack was full of bangers.
It was very interesting.
There was a lot of, like, that old school, like, weirdness put in there. I don't know how to describe
But in general, I
thought it was a good time.
Having Porky and Daffy teaming up against an alien who's using gum to turn people into zombies is quite a fun concept, and not at all similar to Night of the Zoopocalypse, where an alien comes down and starts turning all the animals into zombies.
It's not the same thing.
Not the same thing.
Because this is Looney Tunes.
It is only kind of convenient that they both came out back-to-back weeks, but...
It's another Ants Bugs Life situation.
Not It's
not exactly, but it's, a movie about ants.
Aliens turning people... turning into... robots and iRoboters.
Yeah.
Like that.
No. Well, yeah, I think that's what it was.
Deep Impact and Armageddon.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of them. Mm-hmm. The Illusionist and The Prestige. And then White House Down and Olympus Has Fallen. So all of you are... Wow, these are the same movies coming out at the same time, or at least same kinds of ideas. My most anticipated is a new Soderbergh thriller starring Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett, where they play a married couple who both happen to be in espionage. So this is like Soderbergh cool Mr. and Mrs. Smith, so I'm pretty excited about it.
I'm calling it's a metaphor for their marriage.
It could be.
I'm calling it now.
Missing Fassbender in a lot of things, because he's only done a couple things since, like, pre-pandemic.
He's the one who's half British, half German, right?
Yes.
He looks very European.
Got his big start in 300 and,
really?
Inglourious Bastards.
Wow.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. He's one of the Spartans. But there's some interesting films to check out this weekend, and I'm only assuming that Captain America: Brave New World will no longer be at the top spot with this with this particular weekend, but I'm assuming as we're recording it's not going to win this weekend either. But, this is the last weekend, I think, for a while where we're not going to have, like, another humongous blockbuster with, like, Snow White coming out, which isn't tracking very well, but And then we have Minecraft's It's Calling Us to the Mines.
The children yearn for the mines.
The children's yearn for the mines, of course. But those are our coming attractions. I have a bit of backstory on Castello Cavalcanti. This is from 2013, written and directed by Wes Anderson. He did that one solo, starring Jason Schwartzman, who I think just, understands what Wes Anderson is expecting. This is filmed in Cecina in Rome, in Italy, financed by Prada. Debuted at the Rome Film Festival, released online November 13th, 2013, and it has allusions to La Dolce Vita and Amarcord, so some Fellini films, definitely.
It's art.
For sure. But Jess, what are your general thoughts on Castello Cavalcanti?
Made me miss Italian food. Like, not proper, I don't want to say that. Don't come for me, like... Italian food in Italy is different than Italian-American cuisine.
Well, that's all you have to say. It's just Italian food. Yeah. It's not Italian-American cuisine.
Different, but not less.
But yes, and
I like those little towns, too. They're so cute. And I love how there's always, like, old guys bullshitting everywhere. Like, I felt like that was authentic.
This film really captures that vibe well of this small town.
Sitting around talking crap about.
Sitting around at a little table outside a cafe. Yep. And family run, of course. And, just enjoying some pasta. What I appreciate about this, so first off, obviously it's Wes Anderson. You take one look at it, it's Wes Anderson.
Yeah. Symmetrical.
The colors, the richness of the visuals. The camera pans. And then dealing with, it has action and stunts in it because this is about a race. And the synopsis. So Italy. Picture it. Italy. September 1955. A Formula One driver crashes his car during a race, leaving him stuck in a small village, but good surprises will come his way. And you have the little stunts of, like, the cars driving through, and then the stunt of the
tiny town square.
Yep. And the car crashing and getting all beat up, and the fact that, like, 4 men can just pick up this car and move it. They're tiny. Formula One cars for sure. And it has just all the look and the vibe of, one, really capturing Italy, but also capturing Wes Anderson's vibe for sure. Jason Schwartzman's just charismatic as Jason Schwartzman's going to be and really understands Wes Anderson's vibe. His whole conversation with, I think it's like his brother-in-law or his cousin on the phone, blaming him.
They put the wheel on backwards or whatever.
He keeps blaming him. He put the wheel on backwards.
Wouldn't he have noticed that, like, when he tested? I don't know. Aren't you supposed to test that out?
Well, and then he finally gets on the phone with him, and he definitely backs down like a lot of people do. They talk a lot of crap before they get on the phone with the person. But then the other person just starts getting upset, and then they are like, no, it's okay. It wasn't your bad. But he starts the phone conversation like, you put the wheel on backwards.
Yeah, he gets out of the car complaining.
Yep.
He complains the whole time.
Yep, and Jason Schwartzman channels that kind of energy really well. Very convincing. Even has his nice slick back hair and mustache for this because, Italian.
He's half Italian.
He is indeed. And I really like this has a very specific idea what it's trying to portray. I don't think it's an accident that he's a race car driver in a Formula One race that is just zipping by. Gotta go fast. And then crashes. Forced to be in this small town and realize, like, hey, maybe I need to slow things down and appreciate what's around me. And oddly enough, like, meets a relative of his. He's like, my family's from here. And then makes a surprise and meets some of his family.
That's why the name of this is his name, probably.
Well, one of them's his name and one of them's the name of the town.
Yep.
Castello Cavalcanti. So,
well, at Ellis Island they used to just name you whatever.
Well, I think his last name's Castello, and then this small town's Cavalcanti. So, he is a Castello from Cavalcanti. So, there you go.
I'm surprised they weren't just like, yeah, this is fine.
And then, you know, he has the opportunity to leave on a certain bus, and he winds up making the choice to leave on a later one.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind
appreciating the culture.
And he's like, can I get a bowl of spaghetti? And just...
You want some spaghetti?
Has this little moment, because, like, the only...
I think he just got some random Italian dudes to be in this. Honestly, I think he just pulled some dudes off the street.
Well, Giada Cavalcanti, who's one of the bartenders, she's the only other one with, like, a picture on IMDb. So she's been in some other things.
He just pulled these random guys from the shooting location.
Well, and it feels very authentic and real. And, like, obviously, Jason Schwartzman sticks out because it's hard to not notice Jason Schwartzman. But, like, everything else just feels very authentic. And my guess is, because Prada's Prada's Italian.
Brand.
Which is interesting because their last film was set in France. But, like, this one just feels like... Maybe it was that kind of feels like this is what Prada's about. Prada's about family.
It's kind
Prada's
of like
about Italian tradition.
School branding, I think. Like, back when rich people would fund the arts and whatnot instead of... throwing egos.
Yeah, Europeans sure love that Wes Anderson shit. Because...
He returns the feelings, you can tell.
Yeah, and, like, obviously my next episode is going to be a Grand Budapest Hotel, which I'm very looking forward to recording tomorrow, as we're recording this. But it's that kind of vibe that I think his sensibilities, like, none of his sensibilities tell me he's a Texan. Like, if you're going to ask me, like,
except
where's...
for that student film, maybe.
It's like, where's Wes Anderson in the United States? I would never guess Texas. I would guess that he was from, like, Brooklyn or the Village in, like, New York or something like that. But, and then he does have a bit of, like, that European flair. Obviously, he's heavily influenced by... And as I've read through so many French films and Italian films with all of his films up to this point. So I think this was probably just like a nice little love letter that he got to. It has a little fountain in the middle.
Seems like a fun project.
Yeah.
For everybody involved.
For everybody involved. And, you know, Prada got some advertising and we got some...
For the
like,
brand, I
even
guess.
just like the poster is so rich in colors and...
Aggressively Wes Anderson.
But Jess, do you have any other thoughts on Castello Cavalcanti?
No, I mean, we don't know what they were selling specifically, but maybe they were selling the brand, because look, we're talking about it.
They were selling
what is
Italy.
It? What is it? What is Prada selling? Doing a little Google, thinking about it a little longer.
Prada's selling family.
Wage psychological warfare to advertise.
There you go. Now, let's get into some recommendations for all of you. And Jess, let's take this to some dark places. What would you like to recommend to everybody?
Some nice light viewing. The Devil in the Family, The Fall of Ruby Franke. I am a Jennanite, and I do invest too much of my time into fundy snark. I'm not gonna lie. I try not to, because as Shane rightly pointed out one day, as I'm like in the middle of a depressive episode, he's like, why are you watching this depressing stuff? It's not gonna make you feel better. I'm like... I don't know.
Go do what brings you joy. Go watch Twin Peaks more.
I do really enjoy it. I recommended Twin Peaks last time, though.
Yeah.
I also recommend this video I found of David Lynch directing children. That was pretty funny. Because, like, he wants them to scream and cry, and we as adults get that, but, like, the kids are just kind of rolling around on the floor, and it's just funny. I don't want to spoil anything, because it's a good time.
There you go.
Trigger warnings for The Fall of Ruby Franke, though. It's dark. It doesn't... It does kind of start that way, but it gets even darker.
Oh my.
It's challenging. Yeah, it's also one of those stories that's kind of like a train wreck, where you just can't, if you're like me, you can't look away. You're just like, wow, how did this happen? And then you see it, you're like, whoa, kind of messed up.
Well, there you go.
Utah.
So, I'll do my usual of 3 recommendations, starting with a new film, which is Universal Language, which is a strange, quirky film that honestly channels a lot of Wes Anderson vibes to it. And it takes place in a town somewhere in, how they describe it, somewhere in between Manitoba and Tehran. It's like this strange mixture of like Persian Iranian culture and Canadian culture, like French Canadian for sure. And it's quirky, it's weird, it's funny, and it's just about a a couple of different stories of lost souls just on their own personal journeys that all kind of like thread together in a 90-minute little comedy. And it's so funny because it's like so random at the beginning. It just starts with like this class coming back from a break and their teacher, who's like a cool teacher, being mad at them. It's like, what are you dressed up as? Like, Groucho Marx. And this kid just randomly dressed up as Groucho Marx in the back of the classroom.
Look, if there's one thing I've learned from working with children, they're weird. Yep. Kids are weird.
But yeah, Universal Language, which I think was a shortlist film for the Oscars this year, didn't get released in the United States until like 3 weeks ago, except then took forever to come around, and then I had to go to one of the further AMCs that I go to see it because it was the only one playing. But it was worth it. Next off my watch list, watched this just this morning, is The Player from Robert Altman, which is a very dark comedy satire of the world of Hollywood. And you have a Hollywood exec played by Tim Robbins, who is just...
Who I found out is not Tim Robbins.
Yeah, that would have been a very different movie.
So I'm like, how old is this guy?
I would love to see it. I would pay to see The Player starring Tim Robinson. But this has an insane cast. Like, insane. I'm not even going to go into the list of people, and so many of them play themselves, but there's also a lot of very familiar faces who play, like, actual famous people in this. Playing executives and writers and stuff like that. It has murder, cover-ups, movie making. It has, like, that Hail Caesar vibe of, like, that Hollywood fixer kind of stuff. And it's just such a...
But in the 90s.
Yeah, and it's a very dark, biting commentary on just how soulless the studios can be in Hollywood in terms of art and predatory and stuff like that. So, Robert Altman, I'm starting to watch more of his films. This is the second straight Sunday. Last weekend, watched 3 Women, which I wrote the Wasteland review request for. So this one was just for fun, off my watch list.
This maybe influenced BoJack Horseman, because that's also an indictment of Hollywood and how
it definitely has like sax vibes and stuff.
Yeah,
like
the
that.
soundtrack is what I fixated on. But now you're describing it, I'm like, interesting.
And then
BoJack's way darker.
Yep. And then for this last one, which is one of our movies that I rewatched, and I wrote for the Wasteland collection for this month, is Duck Soup.
Boy, interesting parallels.
I was with him until he died. Oh, so it was murder. There's
a lot of fast-talking smart guys in this one.
This movie is 69 minutes and packs so much into it.
Boy, is it fast.
It is so funny. It's so fast-talking. There's great sight gags. There's the iconic broken mirror and then play reflection scene between, I think it was Harpo and then Groucho. And just Groucho is so funny. Chico is just so mean and cruel and antagonistic and stupid.
Is Zeppo in this one?
Yes, he was the straight man. He was like, he's the handsome one that's not funny because he's the straight man to the whole situation.
Because I was like, wait, there's 3 funny ones. Where's the other guy?
He was there. He was there the whole time.
No, this was his last movie, and then he went on to other careers.
And then Harpo, who doesn't speak. But
this whole movie is classic. They didn't have ADHD in my day. They had to sit and watch this movie, though. That's basically the equivalent. It's like that generation's equivalent of Jingly Boo Boo Keys to keep your attention.
It's so damn funny, though, and it's uncomfortable with them talking like this.
My God, the dictator.
Rufus T. Firefly and his absurd selfishness and idiocracy.
You gotta love the endless rotation of his cabinet, Shane.
And like the tariffs and the ceasefires and everything. You're just like,
I looked at Shane. I was like, interesting.
But it's a great one. Go check it out. I had
fun with it.
But that is a wrap here on another episode of Welcome to the Wasteland. But Jess, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.